What is up, family? And welcome back to the Nikki Mungues Show, where I inspire you in all areas and walks of life. And today I have a very, very, very special guest. She is like family to me. We are both in the same business, and we both have something in common: business and basketball. So you're going to learn a little bit more about her. I like to tease her and call her Caitlin Clark's third cousin because they are from the same hometown. And so today I want to introduce to you all and bring on to the show Miss Rachel Busker.
Hi.
What's up? You like my intro?
Yes. We're like twice removed cousins, so.
I know. Well, thank you, man, for being on my show. You know, I've been telling you to, be one of my special guests, and I feel like it's perfect timing now because we've, racked up so many, good conversations. It's so funny. Before the show, you were like, we might as well just have our daily conversations.
Seriously.
But, I want the viewers to know a little bit more about you. So tell us, who is Rachel Busker?
So Rachel Busker is a semi-professional basketball player who plays around the world. And I'm just kidding. That'd be sweet. But no, I grew up in a really small town in the Midwest. I'm originally from Illinois, but we claim Iowa now. So just single mom most of my life. Later on, she got married. I had siblings, so that was interesting. And that was it. I just, I was joking with Nicole about the whole Caitlin Clark thing. And, we like to say we're corn-fed and Iowa bred. And, but it's not really a joke. So it's definitely just slow-moving life, very opposite from any big city, especially where you're from, Nicole. And that's really it. So simple life is where I'm from.
I love that. It's so funny because you and I, we talk almost every day. We have a common ground, basketball and business, but we're definitely from two different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Crazy. You guys, I was born and raised in the city. Mm-hmm. Like downtown LA is like 20 minutes from me, and Rachel is over here, from the Midwest. But it's so crazy how you and I can both relate on certain things. And so, growing up, in the Midwest, we talk about the whole topic of this podcast is learning how to overcome adversity. So my first question to you is, share with us where you have encountered any type of adversity in your life. And you guys, the reason why I have Rachel, on my podcast for a specific reason is because she is one of the strongest, if not most, intelligent and woman that I know in my life. At her age, she's gone through so much. And, I don't want to steal your fire, but, tell us, what types of adversity that you have overcome in your life to make you become the woman that you are today.
So I would say it probably starts out, obviously, as a child. So for me, and I still, obviously, you don't grow out of having dyslexia or ADD. And those who know me know that I have ADD. And as an adult now, like there's cool medications that help you stay focused and get a lot of things done. But growing up as a kid, that wasn't a thing, right? In the 90s, early 2000s, right? They were just like, you're a hyper kid, right? You're fine. Like you can learn just fine. And so stepping back as an adult, looking back on my childhood in that part, especially with school, it was interesting to see how I adjusted, right? And so basically one thing, and I was actually like, I forgot a basketball. So when I was a kid, I used to do things while I was learning, while I was studying, while I was trying to listen. And that helped my mind focus on the task, right? So I think that's a, kind of a easy way of being really successful in Rainbow is because you're talking and doing things simultaneously. Right. You're not just sitting there, having a conversation. And so I really hope I don't lose my train of thought in this because like I have nothing to do. But, that was a big thing. And so I learned just kind of how to manage it more so. Like that's really what it was, is, embracing what it is and just kind of learning to deal with it, because it is what it is. There's, nothing you can do. From a business standpoint, probably one of the biggest, times of hardship or difficulty was moving out to Washington.
Mm,
Went through a divorce, and, I loved Rainbow, wanted to continue to do Rainbow, but I didn't have an opportunity back home to do Rainbow how I wanted to.
right.
And so, Jay offered me an opportunity to kind of help him come out here, start something new. And so basically I just kind of took that and embraced the change, and just kind of rolled with everything that came with it, right? Like there's always going to be growing pains. There's always going to be different things that make it difficult. But the biggest thing is basically just being hopeful and focusing on the future. And that's kind of how you overcome such a big change, right? I don't know if people have moved that far from home. One thing for me was a blessing. When I was in college, I actually did a college program with Disney. And so I was able to leave home. And it's something that, you look at, friends and family, leaving where you're from, I think is important, especially when you're from a small town or a small area like myself. And I say that because, even if you come home, that's fine. But seeing the rest of the world, being cultured, living in a different environment. I mean, Orlando is big, just like California. Probably not as big. I don't really know the population. But the whole point is it's completely outside the comfort zone of a farm, right? Or small town, situation. So having that be what I did right out of college, or right at the end of my college career, was huge, and made things like this, moving out here to Washington, I feel like a lot easier than most people being able to pick up, drive 1,700 miles across the country with everything they own in a U-Haul with their dogs in the back seat, right? So just made it easier to kind of manage and handle. So that's kind of from a business standpoint. And then from a personal standpoint, it's my most recent struggle. So I have rheumatoid arthritis. And for people who don't know what that is, it's just an autoimmune disease. There's thousands of them. Usually you get a couple of them. I do have a couple, but my strongest, most life altering is the rheumatoid arthritis. And basically I kind of wrote down a timeline so I didn't forget, because it's been so long. So I found out through testing in March of 2020 that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And here in Washington, here in Washington, the crazy thing is that rheumatology isn't a popular field of medication or medicine that people want to do. And I think it's because there's more schooling, and it's one of the lower paid positions as a physician. And so people are like, well, why would I want to move to an area that costs more to live and make less money? And so it took 4 months to see a rheumatologist. That was the wait list.
Wow.
And then I found out after I went to that doctor, excuse me, they didn't accept my insurance. And so I had to go to a different one. And so I waited another 4 months, right? So now we're what? Let me see my timeline here. September of 2020. And mind you, this is COVID, right? So
that's tough.
Yeah, I'm like, how can you see my joints, right? And rheumatoid arthritis attacks joints and everything, elbows, fingers, hands, knees. And I'm like, can you tell, right? And it's like, what do you do? But and then I was able to finally go into the doctor, get medication, and life was great. I had RA managed, like I wasn't in pain, like I could do everything I did before. And it was great. And beginning of this year, I slowly started having issues. They call them flares. And I was like, oh, it'll go away. It's just cold, or the temperature changed, or I went back to Iowa. So maybe that's what it is. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And my follow-up appointment was in March. And I thought it was going to be like a 20-minute deal, like check my blood, talk. And it ended up being like a little over an hour. And basically now I have to go on a stronger medication that I have to inject into my stomach or my thigh, and just, kind of just processing that, right? Because taking a medication when I first got on medication was a big pill to swallow, just because they were like, hey, this is chemotherapy. You're going to eat it, not inject it. So it's okay. And you're like, I was petrified, right? I was like, I'm going to be
Right.
flying on an airplane. Like my immune system's
Right.
going to suck. Like, so that was, hard as it is. And now this one is even more compromising to the immune system. So again, just another big pill to swallow. And so in a couple weeks, I think it's a little less than 2 weeks, is when I take my first dose of this medication to kind of see, what happens. And so that adversity, I'm still kind of in the process of overcoming, but how I've kind of put one foot in front of the other from a business, because obviously it
Right.
affects what we do, right? I mean, anybody who's lifted a rainbow knows that you need some finger strength to do that. And so I've kind of just started to figure out different avenues and opportunities of kind of helping the collective. And so we'll see kind of how that unfolds, but that's kind of where we are with current personal stuff. So
Man, if you are tuning in, I don't know about you guys, but just learning about, your story right there, I'm sure a lot of people like didn't even know that you were going through that. And I know Lisa's tuning in. She had commented,
hey,
hearts and a
Lisa.
rainbow. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. But Rach, it's so crazy because the strongest people, you never know what they're going through, and that's what makes you so strong, right? And it's so crazy because I was talking to you prior to this, and it's just you use your weaknesses as your strengths, right? And Jasmine Murphy is tuning in too, girl. You you the best, girl. See, and that's what I'm learning, right? You have to learn how to embrace change. And just you talking about you making all these moves, as a young girl, going to Orlando and moving to Washington, you embrace that change. And I truly believe that God has given you that strength to embrace this change with what you're going through now too. And Shelby said, "You're amazing, Rachel." See, like
Thanks,
you
guys.
inspire so many people, right? But let's talk about currently, right? So yes, you're going through through your RA, and you're embracing change. So how do you get through it every single day? Like, is it a mindset that you do? Do you have daily routines? Because when you talk on these calls, we have our Rising Eagles calls every other Friday. We just see positive Rachel, right? We just see you shine, and that's you. That's Rachel Busker right there. But is there something that you do every day that makes you so strong? Like, is it prayer? Is it the people you talk to? Or, I want to know how you are able to embrace change so much.
So I try to talk to really positive people and continue to focus on those things. I have always been a glass half full kind of person. Always. I can look at someone's situation and they can say something and I'm like, well, at least this, or hey, but you got this, right? And I think that comes from just a harder childhood than most people had. And so and I've always put myself in a position to never be a victim. I, grew up I mean, it was just me and my mom, right? Like we didn't have a bunch of money. We lived in a really small 2-bedroom apartment, right? So it's really humbling. And for me, I didn't let that prevent me from being where I am, right? A lot of people fall victim to their circumstance.
Yeah,
And that was something that never made sense to me.
right.
And, taking opportunities. So, like going to Disney as an example for a college program, right? That was an opportunity. That was a resume builder. That was experience. That was going to the happiest place on earth, right? Like that's why I chose those things. So, Jasmine's one of the positive people that I talk to. If you've ever talked to Jasmine, she just talks with a smile on her face all the time. I talk to you a lot, and I've kind of conditioned my brain at this point, I think, and that's kind of what's held me, above water, I guess, in these times, like right now, because I literally, the positive affirmation thing, like people kind of laugh at it and they're like, oh yeah, personal development. Oh yeah, this. But like for me, I literally told myself that I'm awesome until I believed it. Right. And
Mm,
I do. I think I'm awesome,
yeah.
and it's not a like conceited, cocky thing. It's just like, I think I'm awesome. And I genuinely try to do my best every single day. And that's good enough. Right. Like that is all you can do is give, all yourself. And I also can step outside of myself and be like, yeah, I could be doing more, or I could be doing this, or I should have done this. And it's really easy for me to like also reflect on myself and be like, yeah, you were like a 3 out of 10 today. Like you got to figure that out tomorrow. And so that's kind of, I guess I've kind of padded myself up into this point. And so to kind of answer your question, it takes groundwork and laying a foundation that you can kind of lean on when you don't have as much positivity flowing through your brain.
Right. And you're getting so much love here in the chat. Lisa said, I was just going to say, you could never tell. She's always smiling and encouraging. Shelby said, so much to be grateful for. And Jasmine is just, sending laughing emojis. And then Shelby, always with the love. And that's what I love about you is that you say you're awesome. And like I said, it's not in a cocky way. You guys, in order for you to have this kind of mindset that Rachel has, she's mentally conditioned herself. If you already say, oh, like, I can't do this, you can't do it, right?
Mhm.
But Rach, you have conditioned yourself daily. You guys, I was doing my research because you guys, I'm that one friend that like, yes, my major was, kinesiology, sports medicine. You guys, when Rachel told me her condition, I was like, what is that? I was like, you go work out and like you got to take care of your health. Like it was out of love though.
Uh-huh.
Little did I know, you guys, condition like kills her, not kills, but like it harms her joints. Like it hurts her. And I'm over here trying to be that loving friend. Rachel, like go lift weights, go for a walk. She's like, Nicole, you don't understand. Like, and I looked it up and I was like, yo, I really don't.
I was
Rachel,
like, Nicole, listen. I was like, I said, I'm not trying to be mean. I was like, I can't even hold a pencil right now. How the do you expect me to hold a weight? Right. And then she's like, oh, I'm like,
like I'm Rachel, like publicly speaking, like I'm so sorry.
it's okay. People don't know, right? And it's all in good. Like that's the thing, though. Like getting your blood pumping, eating clean,
Yes.
drinking water. Like
Don't
at
know.
the core of what that is, that's essential, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and speaking of like lifting weights and doing that kind of stuff, I when this stuff started happening to me, it was a major like reflection because I was like, wow, I took that for granted. Right. I
Mm,
thought I was great. I thought like I was pain free for 2 years, Nicole. Like I was good. I was like, this is great. I don't have RA. Like it's fine. I just take medicine once a week and I'm great. Right. And then when I wasn't able to like get the comforter off me in the morning because like my hands literally hurt so bad, or, I had to wait 20, 30, 40, an hour and a half, just to be able to like actually hold something normal and like close my hand. Right. I was like,
right.
wow. Right. Like, look how much you take for granted.
Yeah.
And
And that
even
goes back
though,
to what Shelby said, there's just so much to be grateful for, man.
Mhm.
Like just to and I'm trying to go back to what Lisa said. Like we would have never known. We would have never known that you were undergoing that pain that you're going through, right? But
Good.
but we just see the happy-go-lucky Rachel, like with her dogs, an amazing wife. But you guys, that's why it's so important to be nice to people. You don't know what they're going through, right? And as strong as Rachel is, like I was over here trying to be that good friend and tell her otherwise, but she knew it was all love. I love you, Rachel. We have Victoria from Puerto Rico on. We have so much love still. And if you are tuning in, you guys, send this to your group, send this to your friends who need this type of inspiration, because this right here, this interview that we're having is life changing. I'm already, appreciating the little things that I have. Health is everything, And so that's what I learned from Rachel. Like, to just always have a good attitude. Always, 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 always. It doesn't matter, if you're having a bad day, because your choices are, who you are. And right. So, another question. And so let's talk about business, right? Because many of us are in the entrepreneurship world, we're in the business realm. And so, we've talked about health and all that stuff. And don't worry, we'll get to the basketball talk real quick. Okay. So what are some tips you would give to someone new to the business or entrepreneurship? Your experience in Rainbow, you can talk about, how long you've been in the business and all that, but somebody new in the business that is not, accustomed to this type of lifestyle, you always give great advice. So what would you tell somebody new to the business?
So I always hate telling people how long I've been in the business because well, I don't hate it, but there's a guy that works, he works with us. And if you guys are on the Time to Shine page for Rainbow, he was the one I posted the video of. He came to my door and he's like ringing the doorbell, getting really close to the camera. He's like, "Time to shine, ladies, time to shine." And it's like so early in the morning. Oh my, so that's Eric. And he's like, "Oh my goodness, you've almost been in Rainbow a decade. You're all like," he's just, and this guy's like mid-40s. So like he just always likes to like joke with me and like rib me and have a good time. So I've been in the business a while and I've had an interesting journey and been kind of all different places and worked all over. And I like it out here. And I like the experience and opportunity of, an area that just really, when you step outside and look at it, has a lot of growth and potential. Now, for tips, I wrote down 3 of them, and I'm kind of going to use my notes because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. But so the very,
by the way, sorry, I had to. If you're tuning in, okay, and you really want to lock in, these are some gems from the Rachel Busker. So write this down.
It's simple. And I love when people post like, "Hey, what advice would you give to like your, 20-year-old self," or whatever it is, or your 16-year-old self. But the biggest, like my first one, I guess, that came to mind was make sure that you have fun. Always, right? Because it's really hard to do something that you don't enjoy, and it's really hard to do something to its full potential if you don't enjoy it or have fun with it. And not everything is going to be sunshine and daisies, and it's never that way. Whether you're in Rainbow, whether you get a day job, doesn't matter, right? Even professional athletes have days, right? Like leg day, everybody jokes like leg day is not fun. Everybody, you can't skip leg day. Right. So that's the biggest thing. Always, always, always have fun. And there'll be times that, it isn't, but just make sure you're not in those times very long. And then make sure that you stop and smell the roses. Apparently I have a lot of flower analogies today. But self-care is very important to mental well-being and productivity. I actually can think about times where I'm like, Nicole, right? You need this. Right? Give yourself an hour, right? And you're like, Rachel, I'm watching basketball. I got time. I'm like, good. Right. And it's the little things. Like, it's not even like, oh, I need a vacation. Right. It's like, go out into nature, like go for a walk. Like, it's okay. And like, it's okay to indulge in those things within reason, right? Like, you don't want to take an entire week off to watch March Madness. Right. But, having things that also, give you joy and happiness outside of what you do for a living is really, really, really important. Like I should have put that as number 1 because that is to me most important. And the third one is good in is good out. And that's something that, I learned back when I played basketball is, you eat clean, you drink lots of water, you're going to have good productivity. Right. Same thing with like what you listen to, same thing with what you, read or look at. Right. And so, I always joke like, Sammy has this show she watches. I just call it trash TV. And it's trash because it has no substance, right? You guys ever watch Vanderpump Rules? I hope she's listening. But it's just like reality TV, right? And I'm just like, why do you like this, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always about good. So here's my example. And so shout out Jay. When I was going through one of the hardest times in my life personally, we had done a couple of hires and did some training. And part of our training started out with like Les Brown, especially being shoved down our throat right away in the morning, like 9:30 in the morning. First thing shoved down your throat is Les Brown, right? And I'm just like, oh, these meetings, oh, this, right? But because of the position that I am and was in this business with Jay, I didn't have a choice, right? And so in a way, I say I was forced, but I wasn't forced. But in theory, like that's kind of the mindset that you have when you think about this situation. And so being forced to listen to him daily truly got me through, right? So when people are like, everybody preaches personal development, do this, read this, like it's real, right? And it takes time, and it wasn't an overnight thing for me. I was like, oh geez, right? And then finally I was like, wow, like my mindset's a little bit different. This doesn't affect me. I was able to kind of being able to step outside yourself and look in from a perspective, whether it's that person or that situation's perspective or just in general, right, is a huge asset to being a problem solver. And this business is more to me a people business, as far as like understanding the way people think and act and react is what makes somebody in Rainbow specifically successful. And so being able to understand someone's body language, and I think I was talking to you about, I can't remember who I was talking about this yesterday with, but truly knowing kind of where they're at when you're in a demo. So anybody not in Rainbow, sorry, but when you're in a demo, right, none of my demos are the same. And that's the hardest thing when it comes to training. And that's the number one piece of feedback that I get is like, none of your demos are the same, right? And the meat and potatoes of my demo is the same. Like I do the same air wash, I do the same, that like all the things about the demo itself are the same. What's different though is what I say and how I say it in the dead space. And so and that comes from, I love psychology. I love, I'm a documentary person. A lot of people who know me know that I like that stuff. And so being able to like know that about people is a major asset. And so that makes the business, easier for me. So that's the main. I just tried to think of 3 things, but those are probably
it. No, that's perfect, right? To have fun, but Mafe said, grateful for you both. This is truly a great conversation on reminding everyone on being thankful for the simple things in our lives. We have our Eagle region on, Polar Nation is on, and Jay is on too. So I know you gave him a shout out not too long ago, but I do have a question for you. When you were talking about, Jay playing, Les Brown, and before you even, being introduced to that, did you not, and this is just like a vulnerable question, because I'm sure a lot of people on here, weren't accustomed to listening to those motivational talks. Was it kind of foreign to you, listening to those motivational, talks every single morning? And when did it click for you to become like, oh shoot, like this can actually change my life, and listening to these motivational things like are actually addictive? Because there are, like, I grew into it, I on my way to school, like this is true story, I was not able to listen to music. Like my mom, my dad, they played freaking motivational stuff, Rich Dad Poor Dad, like on the way to school, and I was like in 5th grade, right? And so for people who are not accustomed to it, like when did it click for you that you needed personal development in order to become successful in the business?
I felt like I always knew. It was just like how a lot of people's mindset is like, yeah, personal development. Like, I get it. Like, I'll listen to a podcast once a week and I'll, work on myself. But until we started doing it every day was really the first time I did it every day.
Mm,
I do, though, gravitate, and I think I do like Les Brown a lot because he's a little bit more of a toned down version of ET. And
mm,
I like that. Like, I am very like, let's go. Like, that is very much like my hype way. And that's how I try to hype people around me. And sometimes people don't respond as well to that because that's not their love language. But that is uh kind of what I choose as, what you listen to. And the cool thing is that there's so much, and like YouTube is free and all of these things. And there's podcasts if you have, an iPhone, like Apple Podcasts, all that stuff's free. But I guess I didn't know until I was put into it
mm,
as far as that part goes. And it took, well, I mean, all things considered, with what I was going through and stuff. I mean, it only took a couple months of just literally, but my mind was doing a million other things. So
right.
I mean, if you're in a position where you're like fresh and you have fresh legs and you're coming in and you have a clear perspective, probably not very long. I mean, honestly, depends on how much you listen to it. And one thing too, I think you, Nicole, do listen to podcasts and stuff when you drive, yeah? Like to demos and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the flip side, just so people know, that you don't have to do that and still kind of, be on a good path, right? I feel like Nicole is at the level that she's at because of all of these things that she does on a daily basis. And I am the type of person when I'm going to a demo, as an example, depending on my day, I am listening to hype music. Like I just need to like get in the zone, right? Like, you have some people who listen to, classical music, and then you have some people who listen to like really naughty rap music, right? And I'm that second one. So like I just need, in certain situations. But the difference here is like when I rainbow my house or when I'm doing things, that's when I listen to podcasts. Or like when I'm in the
Mm,
shower, like I listen to podcasts in times like I try to, I guess, multitask. Right. And those are the times I listen to podcasts or I listen to audiobooks while I'm rainbowing my house. And
right.
so there's still, and the whole point of me bringing that up is there's other places that you can like plug that sort of like growth. Right. And so just be creative in looking at your life. Like for me, when I drive, I'm trying to watch some basketball games or I'm trying to, listen to some music. But when I rainbow my house, it's a perfect opportunity, to like feed the mind, I guess.
Right. And, it's just so important, like you said, to feed the mind because that's what you are going to be, accustomed to. And shout out KJ's tuning in. Deb is on too. So you got the Rainbow family tuning in. And so far, I hope you guys are, learning tons of things from Rachel's, journey to where she's at today. And so another question, I don't even know where to start anymore because all of these, like, you're dropping so many gems. Okay, mentality. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anyone you look up to help get to where you're at today?
Um, like as a kid, Michael Jordan, like
Mm,
love some MJ, right? Just cutthroat, savage. And then as I've gotten older, Steph Curry, the more humble, well-rounded, softer spoken, basketball player. Um, and obviously Caitlin Clark, the whole kind of premise that kind of kickstarted a lot of this conversation in the first place. And more so just from a journey outside of basketball, honestly, with her. And like as far as like not basketball related, like Gary V, I just like the real raw, like say it how it is. Like I feel like that's who I am a lot. And so sometimes it's not everybody's favorite, but the truth hurts, and it's sugarcoating it doesn't make it any easier.
right.
And so I am a lot like how he talks, I feel like is how my mind works, I guess, right? At least.
Right.
And then Nicole, you honestly, just like the biggest thing with you is like work ethic, for me. And I like just looking at it big picture outside, like it's your mind is why you are great. Your mindset, like if you put your mindset in any other person, right, they would be at the same level as you, right? There's nothing that makes you special. And like, I say that not in a bad way, right? Like there's nothing other than the way that you think and the way that you act and the way that you execute, right? Which all comes from here, right? All of what you do and how you do it is a mindset. And that is, what makes you great. And so that's admirable for me, right? Like just it's doable. It's right here in front of you, right? And so a lot of people have that, and I think a lot of people take that for granted. So on a local level, I guess you could say, right? Like you're a true inspiration, and not just to me, but I know a lot of people truly look up to you and have a lot of amazing things to say. So basketball wise, friend wise, you're a good friend obviously too, but yeah.
Thanks, man. No, I truly appreciate it. And you guys, it's just so important to surround yourself with the right people. Because what Jasmine said here in the chat, either you feed your mind or the world will feed it for you. She said, raw like an onion, to the dish might make you cry at first. I love that, Jess. So true. My face said Nikki is a rock star. Thank you guys, consistent on inspiring us on a daily basis. You guys, and the reason why I am like this is because I surround myself with people, like you guys, a few of you guys who have the same mindset as me, who, if not push me to become better. And, Rach, you and I have like literally these daily conversations of, okay, like, like we can do this. Like we literally preach our future to each other, with success in the business. I'm like, you guys, I don't even want to show you Rachel's name on my phone because let me just tell you her name, okay? Her name is Rachel Hype Top 5 Busker. And the reason I'm like exposing you right now, because the reason I say hype is because, we always hype each other up, and top 5 is because I see her top 5 AD, like in Rainbow. Like I see it, and the mindset is there, the patience is there. The work ethic is there. And it doesn't matter. And the reason why I'm so inspired is because no matter what Rachel goes through, you guys, like the next day, like, hey, Nicole, like, yeah, like, oh, so Caitlin Clark, I'm like, bro, like, we just had a tough conversation yesterday. But, positivity, like, what I've been learning so far is that, your mindset, you decide if you want to have a great day or not. You decide if you want to be awesome or not. You decide if you want to help inspire other people in your world. You decide if you want to look at the cup half full or half empty, right? And so our lives have been changed, right? Not just through basketball, but with that shirt that you are wearing.
Let's
Caitlin Clark. You guys, Caitlin Clark. This is her third cousin. So if you have not been tuning in, okay, wait one sec. Rachel has the right mindset and soul, honestly and true. Nikki, you do too. I love listening to your input and the meetings and on other video calls. Man, like it's just addicting to have positive friends in your life. Be careful of who you speak to. I was listening to this podcast, like I don't know if you guys know Stormy Wellington, but she does not allow other people to speak to her for a specific reason. It's all love. So be careful who you speak to. But anyways, going back to the Caitlin Clark talk. If you
hold on one sec.
Yes, go ahead.
Before you, okay. So one thing that you asked me that I thought was really important on questions, but we didn't go over it. I just want to touch on one thing.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Just sacrifice, right? Because again, like I kind of touched on a little bit, but not. It's really a balance, right? And so, what did I put? There's a fine line, but it's important to find a balance. Sacrifice is required, right? Just like pain, but it's only temporary. If you swear word around, it'll take way longer than you need to actually reach that finish line. So like, what are the things, right? Most outings with friends, but like most importantly, in all caps, not all of them, right? Some
Right.
family events that happen all the time, but not all of them,
Right.
right? Like things that are super important that'll never happen again. No, that to me, that's not worth the sacrifice,
Right.
right? And so there's a balance, but there is sacrifice, right? And one thing, Nicole, like I remember when you first kind of shifted, your mindset to really be rainbow, right? You're like, man, I'm gonna give up coaching basketball. And I'm like, right. And like that was a big, like that's a
No
big
way.
thing,
No
right?
way.
And like you also like skipped going out with friends, like just to like screw around on a Saturday night, right? Different like birthday parties and stuff, or like graduations, or bridal showers and stuff like that. Probably not, right? But just going out for shits and giggles, who cares, right? Like
Right.
those sacrifices are required, right? And I think that's kind of why you asked me that question, because it's a common thing, right? And people forget to have that balance. You won't be as successful as you want to be, right? If
Right.
you don't sacrifice something. And if you only want to do rainbow casually and for fun, then you don't really have to sacrifice anything, because the beauty of rainbow, it provides an opportunity whenever works for you, right? Like you can work super part-time in our business and still probably cover, your mortgage, half your mortgage, car payments, whatever, right? I mean, if you ask somebody, if I gave you $1,000 every month, right, could you figure out something to do with it? And the answer is going to be absolutely, right? So that's the point, right? So sacrifice is important. I just think that you can't sacrifice everything. That's something
Exactly.
I'm not willing to do, right? Like missing things with our kids, because doing the sacrifice now gives you an opportunity later to be able to step away and go do things that you like want to do for as long as you need to do it, right? Like somebody passes away, you have to go home, or go visit, like for me, my family's back home, or like in Iowa, right? And so when something happens, right, I now have to take a plane ride, two of them actually, right, to get home and to be
Mhm.
able to deal with that kind of stuff. And if you don't lay that groundwork ahead of time and put yourself in a position, then you're never going to be able to take that opportunity when something bad does happen. And that's
Right.
kind of
And
controlling that balance.
that's what I love about just being an entrepreneur and being in this rainbow business, right? Like you are in
Mhm.
control. Imagine like call and I'm not against people who work 9 to 5s, but if you gotta, if your son or if you gotta go see Noah, if you gotta go on a trip, like you gotta ask permission, right? You gotta ask
Mhm.
permission just to take time off. Like what? And I know you worked like a regular job prior to this, but it's like I understand, the reason why you're in this position is because you have sacrificed, some things in order for you to become successful in this business, right? And my biggest pet peeve, and I know this is yours too, is when you feel like people want to become so successful, they want to make X amount of money, but they don't have the will, the grit, the desire to put the type of work in. You've seen the
Right.
quote when some people want to become $1 million, but want to become a millionaire, but they don't have $1 million work ethic. And that's
Mhm.
facts,
Mhm.
man. Like that's facts. And just to talk about our business just a little bit, for me, for instance, like I sacrifice certain things, right? And so yes, giving up coaching, but now it's like, man, I miss basketball so much. But although I gave up, basketball for a little bit, it made me grow my business at a certain extent in order for me to come back to basketball. So maybe I can go back and coach because I've grown my team. I'm able to train certain people. And so, yes, temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. That's what life is all about. You have to
Mhm.
sacrifice certain things, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so I just want to make sure we covered, sacrifice, family, right? So let's lastly, right? Family and business before we get into our basketball talk, right? Family and business. How do you manage both of them?
Anybody who works with family, knows how difficult working with family is, right? And your spouse is even more difficult, right? But one thing is that, Sammy and I set like early on was just really healthy boundaries of like communication. Anybody who knows me or has talked to me knows that I'm an over communicator and I like to be informed, and I like things to be verified. Like I just, want people to all be on the same page because that's what makes things smooth and successful always, right? Like
Right.
having that communication. So when, Sammy and I were working together completely on our own in this new area, right? When things, my tough love, if I love you, I have tough love for you. And so my tough love was like, hey, listen, this is business. This isn't personal, right?
Mhm.
Like if I said something that like, maybe she didn't like to hear, or that like is just, I'm also very black and white, right? So I'm just going to let you know how it is in the reality of how it is, right? And it's not going to be pretty. And I just don't think that gets to the common goal, right? Like I'm not going to say it in like a pretty way and fluff it up and like, sprinkle it in glitter. Like it doesn't make sense to do that in my brain. So for me, and that was something I'm like, hey, listen, like you understand, right? And then, she's like, yeah, I totally get it. I'm like, okay, cool. Right. Because nothing I'm saying right now is any attack on who you are as a person, my love for you and our relationship, any of that kind of stuff. But when we're talking dollars and we're talking,
Business.
how, yeah, like there's that comfortable balance that has to be created. And so that's kind of how I've, dealt with the family dynamic in this business. And we touched on the other thing I wrote down, which is just like making it easy to like be able to do things and provide for your family with the opportunity, right?
Right.
So, as an example, we went to Disney for spring break. I mean, how many people can miss as much time, as we do in a year, and still get paid and still have a job, right? Half the
Right.
time, right? So for
Right.
me though, I was lucky, I guess. Like I came into this business when I was 22. So I didn't
Mm.
really have a career. Like I didn't have, any of that kind of stuff. So I understand for people who are older that struggle leaving a job because that, pays their bills and takes care of their family and their kids or their grandkids or what have you. So um but there's always information to learn about being able to quit your day job if rainbow's something that makes sense for your family, right?
Right. Right. Vic said patience working with family. Yo, I got some people on right now that relates because I work with my family too, and patience is key. And Sammy, shout out to the wifey. She said that she does, but tough love only makes you stronger. Haha, that is for sure. It's all love. We give each other tough love all the time, every single time, but it only makes you better, right? So tough love now. Basketball talk. Welcome to the press conference. Here we have Caitlin Clark's third cousin. It's like the third
I'll
time.
take questions now. I'm just kidding.
All right, so we have a question. Okay, man, what an outstanding career for Caitlin Clark. Inspiration, broke her own records, like
Hmm.
crazy. Thoughts
Hmm.
on her this season, and how she's inspired you in the basketball world.
um
I know you don't even know where to start.
right. So my biggest thing with Caitlin is really how, I mean, she's literally 22 years old. Like she's super young, right? But how she carries herself outside of the gym is what's really admirable about her. And so outside of basketball itself, right? So it's really nice to just see somebody who just, and I think it's because it's where we're from, right? And so the mindset of just like, hey, like I just want to have fun, like hey, I just want, people to be happy and be inspired, by the good things that we do and the positive play that we have, and so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of what it is for her. But from like an analytical standpoint, from basketball, she's a lot like Steph Curry in many ways, but the biggest way that I was thinking about today was that if Steph Curry doesn't make a whole bunch of threes, like people are like disappointed. They're like, oh, like when he only scores 25 points, they're like, oh, wow. Same thing with Caitlin Clark. They're like, oh, she's having a bad game. And I'm like, she's having a bad game? Like, I was telling you this. I was like, she had 25 points, 9 boards, like 10 assists or 11 assists. I was like, that's a bad game. And for people that don't know basketball, right? All of those numbers are really good. Like all of that is, but from the Caitlin Clark standard that the media and sports world had, and the same thing goes for Steph Curry, right? Like, oh man, he's only made, 6 threes in this game. I'm like, you know how many people barely shoot 6 3-pointers, let alone make 6 3-pointers? Right. So it's the expectation of these people that it's crazy, their mindset. Yeah, that's
no, and I'm sorry, I didn't even do a quick intro on Caitlin Clark because I assumed like she didn't really need like an intro. But for those of you that are tuning in right now and who don't know who Caitlin Clark is, she is just a game changer. I mean, literally just Google her name up. She is the top like collegiate women's, not even women's, just basketball player in general. After many decades, we have never seen a player like her before. To drop 40 points, in a regular season game, in like a tournament game, is insane. She shoots the 3 from the freaking logo, and she's just an inspiration to all. And I was almost gonna call you Caitlin. I feel like I'm interviewing her. And Rachel and I have had that common ground since last year, because last year she's had like a record-breaking season. And one thing that you said, Rachel, that has really reminded me to have fun every time I see her play, you guys, and you know me, I apply all my basketball mindset, skills, attributes, whatever, to business and to life. Every time you see her play, as humble as she has fun. Like she just has so much fun, man. And that's why basketball, has a soft spot. Like, this is going to sound cheesy, but it literally has a soft spot in my heart because it was a part of my life. And, it's still part of our lives, right? It's just like watching, just basketball on TV, going to live games. But how do you think, Caitlin has changed the game now? How do you think she has inspired, the world, inside and outside of the sport, seeing her gonna play, in the pros and all that?
So from a basketball perspective, just like Steph Curry, and it's funny, she's the female Steph Curry in most people's eyes, but she has brought that 3-point shot being a primary shooting method into women's collegiate sports, just like Steph did to the NBA, right? She passed Steph Curry's record for most threes in an NCAA season, in regular season, not even in, tournament play. And so, just all the accolades that have stacked up for her, and it all, thinking about it, all comes from the foundation that she built. The foundation that was laid as a child, and the constant nurturing and support, and it's all a building block, right? Like this did not happen overnight. This didn't happen in 18 years old, I'm going to college, play basketball. Like this is something that's just been like foundationally built upon forever, for literally her whole life, right? Her parents also put her in here, look at this, I'm gonna compare her to you now. Her parents put her in a place of success at an early age, right? There weren't, she went to a private school, and there weren't many girls' basketball camps, things like that. So she was put into boys sports. She was put into, like AAU, I guess you could say, for boys, right? And her parents did everything they could. They were relentless. They didn't give up on, making her dream of playing basketball, because I'm sure she wanted to really bad. Just like your parents put you in a position for success, like literally feeding you, positive and, motivational things as a, high schooler. Now you're in a position as an adult that your mind, like you've already been trained. Right. Just like, being in the gym, taking, thousands of shots. Like I can't remember the number, but Steph Curry literally shoots the ball thousands of times thousands of times. Like, that's what makes him great. That's why they don't miss. It's not like luck. It's not, just God's gift, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he was like a 3-star recruit or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But he didn't have these things, right? Like, he practiced and it was day in, day out, taking the same shot over and over again, right? So that, from a college standpoint for her, is huge. And I think, being humble and being able to take, you were saying like, hey man, she should stay off social media. All she's done is on social media, right?
I
Like,
know.
big love to her family, her friends, the University of Iowa, like, just constant love because she doesn't care, right? And that's the dog mentality of like, I don't care. I'm going to pick myself up and go do the next
Right.
big thing, right?
Right.
And so from, outside of that, from statistical standpoint, women's basketball is on the map. I'm pretty sure every, sports anchor, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure it was even Shaq. He was like, he's like, I don't even think I can name a men's basketball player in the
Thanks.
NCAA tournament. Right. And like, you can name probably 5 or 6, women's basketball players.
100.
And it's insane, right? So, and even that, like, not because of Caitlin Clark, but the Bay is getting a WNBA team. That's huge, right? Like, it's an ever growing thing, and it's cool that she was able to just be such a special talent to bring so much attention, right? Like, you get people, I always joke with Sam's parents, like, Sam's parents are wrestling fans, right? Like, their whole family loves wrestling, all this stuff, right? And they all were like, oh, are you guys watching the game? Like, all this stuff. I'm like, oh, you like basketball now? Right? Like, just joking. But, it's crazy that it brings people, to watch something because it's just so entertaining. And the Warriors did the same thing. I mean, the Warriors are a dynasty, in recent years that have just created so much, like, awe and attention. And it really comes down to Caitlin obviously making ridiculous shots, but it's crazy when people, especially if you know basketball, Caitlin gets shut down shooting the 3. Guess what she does? She has the most amazing court vision I've ever seen in my life. She can thread the needle better than half the professionals that I watch, right? And she is the reason that her team is successful because she puts them in a position to be successful, right? She puts the ball where they don't even realize that they're going to go. Like, oh, wow, the ball just magically ended up in my hand. Well, yeah, because Caitlin tossed it in the momentum that you're running, right? And you got it and were able to score in transition because you were put in a position to make it easy. They didn't have to be super good. All you have to do is run, catch the ball, and bounce it off that little square on the back of the backboard, and then it goes in the hole, right? Like, and so that, is a cool thing, I guess, being a basketball fan watching, right? Like, oh, okay, cool. You're going to take away my 3-pointer. Guess what? I'll just pass it, right? I have 2 buddies on both ends of the wings over here that can shoot the ball just like I can. Maybe they're standing at the 3-point line, but they still make it, right? Like, they don't have to be 30 feet back, launching something and basically swishing.
That's trust. That's a lot of trust too, though.
Mm-hmm.
As a basketball player and, just as a person in a business, like, you got to trust your people. And I want to go back to what you had said, how, like, the reason why, and you guys listen to this, if you are tuning in right now, the reason why Caitlin, Steph Curry, they're good at what they do, and Rachel said it, is because they shot thousands of shots. They got thousands of reps in. You cannot expect yourself to become an overnight success if you do not put the work in, right? Steph Curry, years of repetition, years of practice, hours of practice. Same with Caitlin Clark. I don't care if she's 22 years old. She had that grit and grind in her. And Victoria said, muscle memory, practice is so important. And KJ said, more people watching women's college basketball than ever before. And Nico with the applause, 1000%, because it's not just, I don't care, if you don't have a high basketball IQ and you're supporting women's basketball. Women's basketball has changed the game this year alone itself. And Caitlin Clark has put this game on the map. She has shown what greatness is on and off the court. And you had said you just love the way she carries herself, right? And how she's able to inspire so many people, young women, right? So I know you're excited for the league, but what do you see Caitlin Clark? A lot of there was an interview with Diana Taurasi, and she was like, all right, well, Caitlin Clark's over here playing with some 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Now let's see her play against some grown women. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it'll be great to watch, because the cool thing about Caitlin is she's so just like, oh, well, you blocked my shot. Well, shoot, I better, shoot it further back or higher up next time. Right. Like it's this like constant evolution of like growth. And, Angel Reese, like John Cena in the face when they won the championship, right? Guess who just took down LSU to get to the championship game this year. Right. And it's just, preparation. And, a big thing, and this is something that I wanted to touch on because it's huge, right? Knowing your role in the game, knowing your role in business is huge, right? And the cohesive success of a team comes from all of those things, right? And my favorite meme I saw a long, long time ago, right? Over a 2-game stretch, Dennis Rodman had 49 boards and 0 points, right? Wow. Know your role, right? Know your role, right? His role was not to shoot the ball. His role was, his role was to box out and to get the board and, help make, and he has almost, I think, as many championships as Michael Jordan. I'm pretty sure he has at least 5 championships, right? So, it's just crazy. And same with Draymond and Steph, right? Like Steph's job is to literally run around like a crazy man and have somebody follow him and get open to shoot the ball, right? All he needs is a fraction of a second, right, to get that ball out of his hands. Same with Caitlin Clark, actually. They have the same release time from catch. Actually, they did a whole thing on it. But Draymond Green's job is to create distraction, to put everybody in the position, set the screens, and get the guy open. And that's why he's so critical to the success of, what they do. And, obviously everybody kind of has their pros and cons, and his is a bad temper. But as far as from a basketball standpoint, and same thing with, Iowa, like the guards know that their job is the guards. Their job is to work their way open and to be ready to shoot the ball if Caitlin Clark gets shut down. Hannah Stuelke's job, she knows, it's to run the board. One of the only bigs that I've seen that run like a guard, right, all the way down the court, literally get a pass in transition. That's one of Iowa's main assets and strengths in what they do, off of a rebound or even an inbound. And literally up the court, she's running and catches it, lays it in, right? And she's a sophomore, right? And so their connection is very pure. And again, Hannah knows that's what her job is. She knows as soon as that ball gets shot and she's supposed to be running back to the other side, she just books it. And once she passes half court, then she starts looking like, oh, is Caitlin tossing me? Okay, cool. Right. But, you just kind of know where your place is. And the same thing goes with any business you're in, whether you're in Rainbow or in any other business, right?
You got to use other people's strengths. Mafe said, I feel like the two of you need a basketball podcast speaking on women's point of view, Rainbow Talk or something. Rainbow Talk. 1000%, because you guys, business is a sport. I hope you guys know that business is a sport, and basketball has just been a common ground for Rachel and I, and the principles that we learn from basketball, we apply in business. That's why we're so inspired and so intrigued by the sport of basketball, most especially women's basketball, because it's definitely change the game for sure. And so if you guys are tuning in, I truly, truly, truly appreciate all the love that you have shown to Rach. This is a lot of interaction, the most interaction I probably have had, on a podcast so far. I love how everyone, the family has been tuning in and been supporting you, Rach, and you are such an inspiration. And I'm just blessed to call you my friend, just not, in the rainbow business, but, outside in general. And I know that I'll be a guest on that. Hey, you, me, and KJ, Rach. Agree. Business owners have an advantage when you're an athlete. Discipline, integrity, and taking action for success is what you need to achieve greatness. Hey, I'm for sure gonna put you on that list, KJ, because I feel like so many people need to be inspired to have the same mindset as we do as athletes. And it's just a blessing to have that. And Rach, I appreciate you more than you know. I'll probably call you later today. But Rachel, any last words for anybody listening and tuning in? What would you like to just say to them? Point of advice, encouraging words for the day.
Don't be afraid to reach out to people. I know a lot of people don't reach out because they're like, oh, they're probably busy. Like, I don't have their phone number, or la, la, la. Like, that it probably brings them joy to help you, give you advice, just be, an ear. Like, and that's something I enjoy. I do enjoy, if people want to, and this is something that a lot of people do know about me, if you want to call and just bitch, let me know before you start talking, because otherwise I'm going to come at you with all different angles and advice and ways to solve your problem. And if your problem wasn't something you wanted solved, you just wanted somebody to just hear you, just start the conversation like that. Because I always try to, give perspective, right? Again, glass half full perspective, but even my perspective, just based on personal experience. All of us have gone through different things. All of us have experienced different things. People see on the outside, Nicole, sold 49 rainbows. Okay, cool. I know the back end of that. I was there that whole month. I know what it took, right? That iceberg that you see where people are success, and then literally everything that got them there, right? There's so much more to oh, wow, Nicole's amazing. She sold 49. It's so easy for her. Listen, I'll be the first to tell you, right, that it wasn't sunshine and roses for her either. So, it took a lot of work, but at the end it was worth it. So anyway, my whole point is, if you want to talk to somebody, if you have questions, just ask them. Anybody, not even just me or Nicole, just anybody in general, shoot your shot. And that's my advice.
Amen. I love it. I love it. And you guys, thank you for tuning in. Like I said, Rach, continue to be an inspiration. And, I will have my shows every single Tuesday. So if you guys are tuning in, make sure, and you got inspired, make sure you like and you share this episode. I want to be able to inspire so many people with the interviews that I have with my amazing guests like Rachel. So yes, like, share, comment below, and I will see you guys next week on my next episode. Thanks, Rach.
Thanks for coming to Nicole's channel.
Love.
Yeah.